Well, next up, we have Joe McElderry, so let's get him in.
Let's do it.
Hello,
Joe. How you been, babe?
I'm all right. I'm good, thank you. Very well. How about you?
Really good, thank you. Thanks for joining us this evening.
Pleasure.
What have you been up to, Joe?
Well, we've done. Yeah, it's been a strange one, I suppose, coming out of lockdown. Because I released a new single 2 weeks ago, which was great. New single came out called I Am an Army. And then we did some socially distant shows coming out of the lockdown. And then now just obviously gearing up to do the full-blown tour, Back to Normal, which starts on the 23rd of September. So, yeah, it's weird because it's like all of a sudden we've spent so long like in the house and then all of a sudden you're like, oh wow, we're actually going to do this. This is happening.
Are you excited to get back on stage and do the tour, Joe? Or are you a bit nervous? It's been a little while.
Yeah, I am. I'm really excited, and obviously like for me and my kind of side of work, and I suppose for most people really, it's been such a like fast changing. 1 minute something's happened, then it's not. So at the moment, like I'm still in that kind of denial phase of like, yeah, I probably won't end up doing it, but it's very fast approaching and it's happening. So as long as I'm allowed to be there, I will be there. I can't wait. And I've done a lot of online shows through lockdown and stuff, so I have performed, so I feel ready. I just haven't been in front of an audience, like face to face, which is apart from the ones we've just done. But I am really excited. Like there's nothing better than just celebrating music with people in the same room. That's what it's all about. So I'm really excited.
And one of the things that you've done really successfully since X Factor is, I mean, you're always touring, really, aren't you? Obviously, until recently, you're doing shows, you're doing different bits and bobs. It must have been quite hard for you to have had all of that just like the rug pulled from under you, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all been in the same boat, though, haven't we? Like whether it's your job or whether it's seeing friends and family, like everybody's been so restricted on what they've been able to do that it almost made it a little bit easier that everybody was in the same boat, because you could sympathise with other people, they could sympathise with you. But one thing that I am glad is that I've missed my job, so it must mean that I really enjoy it. Can you imagine if I had got to the end of lockdown and be like, oh my God, I don't want to go back and do this. So,
thank God for that's over with, yeah.
So I feel lucky to be going back to do it, because, I think it's also important to say that a lot of people think that the industry's fully back, and it's not, it's still, there's many hurdles for the entertainment industry still to cross over as we kind of slowly go back into normality. So I feel lucky that we're able to do the first kind of steps, and it will still be different, but we'll make it fun. It's going to be great.
Definitely. Joe, it was announced recently that X Factor won't be coming back. How do you feel about it? Someone who's been on the show and obviously like massive part of your life.
I mean, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because I suppose, like everybody else, I was a huge fan before I went on the show. I continue to be a huge fan after the show. I do think they did kind of chop and change the format so much towards the end that it was hard to follow it a little bit. And I think that maybe is one of the reasons. I said that quite a few years back. If it's not spoiled, why fix it? And I think they tried to get a little bit too clever with the format, which I think maybe it became a little bit too cruel with all that 6-chair challenge thing and telling people they were through and then they weren't. So, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it'll be back in some form at some point. So, and I'm forever thankful for the platform. Sorry. I've caught my breath. It's not cool, but I've caught my breath.
Yeah, everyone says that, Joe.
I have to. It's like a disclaimer.
Yeah, totally.
Isn't it? Whenever you cough in public, like, it ain't COVID.
I've done a lap flow. No, but what could we expect from the tour?
Well, obviously, we've released 2 new singles since I was last on tour. So there's new music, obviously, to perform that I haven't performed live yet. Some of the old favourites. I'm going to do a few kind of different covers that I've never done before. And, I think this year, the kind of the whole format of a normal tour, if you'd release stuff or it had a theme and everything, this tour was supposed to be last year. It's been rescheduled 3 times. So I think we've gone through about 3 different tour names in the space of 7 months. So I think, in a way, it allows us to just kind of have real fun with the show. There's not really a format that we need to follow. And, and I think I just want to create a vibe that people, they can come, they can feel relaxed. It's great to be back in a venue again and just sing along and clap along and dance if they want to get up and dance. And just, it's all about the fun this year, I think, because we've all missed it and that's what's needed.
Yeah, and it's long overdue. Like I say, I think so many people just want to go and see people sing live. It's so important, isn't it? And I just think for things to be slowly opening up again now, and now shows, even if we have to, whatever the rules are, the fact that we're able to do it, I think is just a massive step forward.
Such a relief for people, I went to see Mary Poppins the other night in the West End, and I just sat and I didn't realise it until the end, but I just literally sat for 2 hours just smiling at the stage. It's just such a happy show, and the music and the talent on the stage. And I got to the end and the curtain came down and I was just kind of staring at the stage smiling.
Your cheeks hurting. They're starting to wobble.
And I just thought that's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to make people feel things, and it's a release for people. So, I know that obviously, like I said before, I've done the online shows through lockdown and they've been wonderful. But it's so much better to have the connection with people in the room, and be able to see people's reaction right there in front of you and see them, maybe get sad about a song, then get really excited about another song, hands up in the air, all of that. So I can't wait.
And there's something quite emotional about being in a theatre, isn't it? I went to see a show, I think last weekend or the weekend before, and I actually sat there like you, and I just thought, oh my God, I've missed this so much.
Yeah, and being around people, for me, obviously, we've done concerts throughout lockdown, and we did socially distant outdoor things last year and things, which was wonderful, and making the best of a bad situation. But to just go into a theatre the other night and just see everybody just sat full, enjoying theatre again, I was like, God, you'll never take that for granted again. It's such a strange. It's such a strange perspective to now have.
Absolutely.
There was a little bit of sad news, and we actually touched about it at the top of the show about Sarah Harding. I don't know if you about her obviously passing away earlier this week. I know obviously you were mentored by Cheryl back in the day. Did you ever meet Sarah or have any interactions with her?
I did actually. She came down to X Factor quite a bit. Sorry, I've really caught my breath. Somebody caught me.
Don't worry.
She came down to X Factor quite a few times, and I got to meet her a few times in the dressing room, and that, and then at the kind of industry events that you go to. She was always such a charming, wonderful girl. So honestly, I'd kind of heard that she was really ill, and but it still doesn't make it any less of a shock, and just such a young age, so tragic, So it's so sad, so sad.
Do you keep in touch with Cheryl, Joe?
I mean, it's not like we don't not keep in touch. I think it's just we haven't spoke for a few years now, but I suppose you have to be careful when you say that because everybody thinks you've had some kind of feud.
There might be no Barney, no feud.
I think it's just life's busy, We're both busy. We're both off doing different things. We're both in different stages of our lives. She's got a child now and doing her own thing, and vice versa. But if I saw her tomorrow, we would have the best catch up. We would have a big hug, and there's no malice or anything like that. It's just I think people forget as well. We had a great connection on the show, but we were only around each other for 12 weeks. But I think in people's minds, it's made into this big thing, they're really best friends. But I've got nothing but love for her.
What have you made of all of the recent claims about the exploitation from the show? I know that Rebecca Ferguson, Katie Waisel, there's been some controversy around the show. What have you made of those claims?
I mean, I think it's no secret that the X Factor is a hell of a machine and a formula, and it's I've said this in the past, and I went through my own journey with the show of kind of leaving the first management company and almost starting over again, really, about 3 years after I won the show, and kind of setting everything up in-house and setting up a company, and so that I had that creative control. So I've gone through my own issues in that many years ago, and I've said for many years that not just on X Factor, but on any reality TV show where you are plucking somebody from a relatively normal life of nothing to do with show business, there has to be aftercare that is not a part of the actual TV show. It has to be separate people that don't have an interest in the financial kind of, benefits of that. Because if you have an aftercare team that work for the TV show, then their interests are the TV show, not the individual, Yeah. So I definitely think on all forms of reality television, there needs to be better protection for people, because I was lucky, that I had a great family background to support me, and I adjusted to it relatively well with its ups and downs. But some people struggle with it and find it really difficult. And I think there should be that help there for people. If you've been given that platform from a big corporation or a company, it's in my opinion, their responsibility to protect you in a way.
Do you keep in touch, Joe, with anyone from your series?
I saw who have I spoke to recently? I spoke to Jedward not long ago.
They're all over TikTok now, aren't they? I see them all the time.
Who else? I spoke to Rachel Aladeji a couple of weeks back, actually. We had a little text exchange. I've seen Stacey when I've been on Loose Women. I haven't spoken to Ollie for a while. I think it's hard, isn't it? Because we're all kind of just gone off and doing our own things. But we all went through such a, I'm sure it's like with you, Bobby, with Towie, like, everybody understands that. Nobody understands that process until you've been through it with those people.
Yeah.
So, and you're always kind of connected in that way. Do you know what I mean? Even if you don't speak to them that much.
Absolutely, because your lives change together. Like you say, no one else would ever. And if you don't see each other from 1 week, month, or year to the next, you'll always have that. I completely get what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting that they say it doesn't matter what show you come from. There's a similar setup. And you've actually done a couple of reality shows as well, haven't you, Joe? Is there any sort of left on your list that you'd like to do? Do you think, or are you done with reality now?
I would love to do Strictly. Honestly, I would absolutely. Like,
have they ever had an X Factor winner on Strictly? I don't know if they have.
Alexandra Burke did it.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did.
Right. She was fantastic on it. I would love. That is the one show I don't really get jealous of. Like, whenever I'm watching the telly, most of the time I watch most of the reality shows and think, God, I could think of nothing worse than being in that position right now, because you know how it feels. Like, the anxiety that it brings and stressful and all of that comes with it. The one show that I always watch and think, oh my God, I am so jealous, is Strictly. It just looks like so much fun. And dressing up with them costumes. And in my mind, I do think that I dance like Beyonce, although that is probably not true.
That is a high level. You're setting yourself up there, Joe, if they ever do ask.
Aim high is what I see.
You mentioned when you look at reality TV show, you feel the anxiety. When you look back at your time on X Factor, did you suffer with anxiety and kind of like your mental health when you was on the show?
I think for me, and I was actually just talking to a friend about this. I was at a barbecue a couple of days ago, and a friend was asking about when I came out on the show, after the show. And they were like, oh my God, you were just a baby. And like, we all had like a little moment. We sat in a garden and we had like a little moment. We all got a little bit emotional, like thinking about how young I was in that situation. Because I think at the time, my naivety just almost protected us in a way. It was actually it was a blessing in disguise. Because I look back now and I think, how the hell, like, I got through some of that stuff and, like, dealing with the nerves and dealing with coming out on such a public scale. And, like, and I look back now, I think, I don't think I could do that now as a 30-year-old. Like, I'd be an absolute mess. But maybe I suppose that's just, as you get older, you realise the gravity of it all, like the weight of what that actually is for a young person. So, but I was quite lucky that, I think because I was just young and excited to be doing what I was doing, I kind of just floated along nicely, luckily. I don't know how, but I just did somehow.
I think you're so right about the age thing. I mean, not quite the same as going out to millions of people on a Saturday night, but I look back to where I was when I was much, even going to a theme park, I wouldn't think nothing about getting on rides.
Yeah.
And little things like that. And I think the older I get, I just have more of a, I don't know if it's an age thing or if I'm just cracking on a little bit. I'm like, oh,
risk more. I think you understand risk as you get older, and you know and whereas when you're younger, you don't know the consequences of the actions that you're taking, but you do as you get older, and you can look back. I think that's what it is, and you can look back and say.
And I always think as well, like you kind of tend to, before, like when you're younger, you kind of just jump into a moment without thinking of it, and now. I think now I kind of dissect a lot more things before I make a decision, especially a work thing. So, like years ago, if somebody asked us to do something, I'd be like, yeah, I'll do that. That's fine. Yeah, that's great. And then now I'm like, I think I'm going to need like 2 days to think about this and work out.
Work out your exit plan, Joe, is what you're trying to work out how to say no. I understand that. Well, Joe, it's been so nice to speak to you this evening, and we are going to play your song. So would you mind introing it?
Yes. This is my single, I Am an Army, and I hope you enjoy it.
I came this far with armored heart, and my head held high, grenades falling from the sky. And you beat your drum like a firing gun, but I hear no sound, the love beat out too loud. You know it all, you think it's right, you love the hurt, you want the fight, you try, but I never feel you, 'cause you try to break me, try to shake me, but I am an army. You try to hate me, but it only makes me, 'cause I am an army. Like an arrow sharp when it leaves the bow, you'll never know where I'm gonna go. I let it time, the speed is mine, I walk on fire across the line. I know I'll run through your wild storm, 'cause you try to break me, try to shake me, but I am an army. You try to hate me, but it only makes me, 'cause I am an army. So kicking down these doors, I have their hands against my back, holding me, pushing me, pulling me, lifting me, they guide me through. And you try to break me, try to shake me, but I am an army. You try to take me, but you only wake me, and I am an army. You try to rule me, but you only feel me, 'cause I am an army. You wanna hate me, but it only makes me, 'cause I am an army.
Oh, what a nice guy.
Oh yeah. Well, that was a really nice show.
Yeah, really good.